Yeah, what about Boston?
Hey, listen, they got to be looking real hard because, every team says, well, you know what, if we don't get anything done, we're happy with our team. I can't imagine people in Boston will be happy with the Bruins.
No, people in Boston won't be, and I don't think the key guys should be happy either. I mean, Bergeron, 35-ish or 34, and Krejci. That window is starting to come down, Char.
They've been in a constant cycle of trying to find a winger who can play with DeBrusk and Krejci.
That's right.
So it started with Rick Nash.
You're right, and that didn't work out too well.
Right, and then they got Coyle, and people thought it might be Coyle, and then Coyle played down the line a little bit.
He's a third line.
Yeah, Coyle played down the line a little bit, and then Johansson was in there for a bit. But they've constantly been rotating that second line winger.
And the guys that they've rotated in now, they can't find one, whether it's whoever it might be, Heinen, Bjork.
They spent the money on Backus.
Yeah.
They took a shot that he might be that guy.
Right.
And that didn't work out. They've tried.
That was a tough deal. But you know what? I did talk to Bruce Cassidy in the last little while, and I said, we've seen Krejci play with Pastrnak and play very, very well.
Yeah.
I said, what happens if at the deadline, would you move Krejci or Pastrnak down to Krejci's line? And then you've got a set Marchand and Bergeron. You've got Krejci, and then you got, and he actually said something very interesting. He said, I might not be really comfortable with DeBrusk and Krejci and Pastrnak from a defensive position, so I might actually think moving him with Coyle. So the wheels are turning in Boston for an event, a non-event, something that doesn't happen.
Turn if you can go out and pick up a player right now that just kind of fits. Like
that's the Kreider for. I mean, he got hit. He got hot rather at the right time, right? I mean, he was not playing very well, and he's going to cost a ton of money. Next year. And he's from Boston.
They're probably. I can't imagine they'd be able to re-sign him, but you never say never, because in the salary cap world, it's always a discretionary thing. You can always just say we're getting rid of this guy, and this guy to make room for this guy, but it'd be tough.
If Jimmy Rutherford was running the Boston Bruins, he's making a trade for a left winger that can play on that line, or a right winger, whatever they need that second line. Yeah. He's making it. But he's at a different point in his life, and the team in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, but in some ways, though, Boston's not that far off.
They're like the Penguins.
They are, like you mentioned, Bergeron and Chara.
Top record in the league, right?
And that, so yeah. And listen, in fairness to Don Sweeney and the Bruins, it's not like they sat on their hands. They made the Nash deal. Mm-hmm. They made the Coyle deal. They made the Johansson deal. They've not just sat there and done nothing.
Right.
It just, other teams are adding, and there's been this flurry of activity for the past 4 or 5 days, and Boston's not been a part of it. So you can see in the Boston media, it's like they're getting antsy. They're like, okay, what about we? Because there was some talk that Boston was in on Brendan Dillon, and so it's an interesting.
There's talk about Josh Anderson, who's been hurt, but I don't know if that's going to work out for them. It's that's a very dangerous situation.
If he wasn't hurt, he'd be a Bruin.
Exactly. He's coming off a bad shoulder, and everybody thinks he's ready to go, but he doesn't think he's ready just yet. That one's fraught with peril, that you're trading for a guy at the deadline that hasn't played for a while. And let's be honest, that's almost more of a futures deal, because you got to be prepared. Josh Anderson had 1 goal in 26 games before he got injured.
Yeah, so obviously he was playing hurt.
Yeah.
Because he's too good of a player to have 1 goal.
Exactly.
But he would be a perfect Bruin. But you're gonna have to pay, and he's not gonna take.
And he's got our rights.
He'll fight you. He'll fight for his cash. He's done it before.
Exactly. So.
How long does this podcast go that we don't get paid for? Not much longer.
I got one more team. I got one more team I want to talk about here. I got another team, because Boston may be justified in standing pat, even though their fans don't want that. We saw a team last night that it appears needs to do something to shake it out, and Sheldon Keefe was despondent after Toronto's game yesterday. Just defensively, they can score with the best of them, but just defensively for them, there's some serious issues there. What do you see with the Maple Leafs and what they may do?
Well, I don't think that the Leafs are in the mindset of we must do something by Monday to correct what's wrong with the team, because what they need to do by Monday might not be available to them. And that is, for weeks now, they've been looking for a right-shot defenseman with term that can play in their top 4, that you could put on a pair with Morgan Riley and for the next 1, 2, 3, 4 years, whatever the case may be. It's not an easy needle to thread, because those relatively young defensemen they know they're going to have to give up a Kasperi Kapanen to do it. But they've also been decimated with injuries. That's not an excuse. Just to point out that, a lot of their forward depth, that Ilya Mikheyev was a real good player for them. And then he got his wrist sliced up and he hasn't played and won't play probably for a while. Andreas Johnsson, they just announced, out 6 months, knee surgery. So a lot of the forward depth that the Toronto Maple Leafs had has dissipated because of injury. And so now I think they'd be fine trading Kapanen who hasn't played well at all this year. His numbers are way off. But I think they'd be fine trading him for the right defenseman. They just haven't found the right defenseman.
Hard to find that right-handed shooting defenseman still, right?
It really is.